Hello, welcome to Secret Zone. Subscribe and turn on notifications for stories you won't forget. It started with a sound I had heard 1,000 times before the soft vibration of a phone on the table, but that night, it felt louder than anything else in the room. We were sitting close, the way couples do when they still believe nothing can truly come between them. There was warmth, familiarity, the quiet comfort of shared breaths. I glanced at the screen without thinking, expecting something ordinary. Maybe a delayed plan or a casual message. Instead, a few cold words stared back at me, sharp enough to cut through everything we had built together. You don't control me. No explanation. No softness. Just defiance. My heart sank not because of the words alone, but because of what they revealed: distance, resentment, a version of her I didn't recognize anymore. For a moment, I said nothing. I watched her face calm and detached, as if she had already stepped far away from the life we shared. Inside me, love and disbelief wrestled fiercely. I remembered how this same woman once held my hand and promised forever, how she used to look at me like I was her safest place. And yet here she was, texting rebellion instead of speaking to me, choosing a screen over honesty. Something inside me finally broke, not in anger, but in clarity. My reply was simple, almost painfully calm. You're single now. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse, I just told the truth as I finally saw it. The silence that followed was heavier than any argument we had ever had. And in that silence, everything changed. This story isn't about control or pride. It's about love stretched to its limits and trust quietly bleeding out. It's about how two people can share a home, memories, and dreams, yet slowly become strangers without realizing when the turning point arrived. I had believed in her completely. I believed love meant patience, compromise, and faith even when doubts crept in. I ignored the late replies, the emotional distance, the way her smile no longer reached her eyes. I told myself this was just a phase, that real love survives storms. But some storms don't pass. They expose the cracks you refuse to see. When I sent that reply, I wasn't trying to punish her. I was choosing self-respect for the first time in a long while. What happened next was something I never expected. The phone that had felt so cold moments earlier came alive with missed calls. Messages piling up one after another, desperation replacing confidence. Suddenly, the power shifted, and the words she had sent so casually returned to her with a weight she wasn't prepared to carry. In those moments, I realized how fragile false freedom can be when it's built on betrayal. As you listen to this story, you'll walk through the tenderness that once defined our relationship. The laughter, the promises, the belief that love alone was enough. You'll also witness how subtle disrespect can grow into emotional distance, and how one message can shatter years of shared history. This is a story of romance and faithlessness intertwined, of a man who loved deeply and a woman who underestimated the cost of her choices. It's not just about what she did, but about what it took for me to finally let go. Stay with me. Because what followed that single text didn't just break her, it transformed both of us in ways neither of us saw coming. In the beginning, love felt effortless. It lived in small gestures, the way she leaned against me while scrolling through her phone, the way her fingers naturally found mine when we walked together, the way silence between us once felt safe instead of heavy. I believed we were solid. Not perfect, but real. We laughed, icily, shared meals, planned futures without even realizing we were doing it. I trusted her not because I was naive, but because she gave me every reason to. She spoke about loyalty as if it were sacred. She said love meant choosing each other even when it wasn't convenient. I believed her because I wanted to, because I loved her deeply. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. Not suddenly, quietly. Conversations became shorter, smiles felt rehearsed. Her phone started holding more of her attention than my presence. I told myself it was stress, exhaustion, the normal weight of life pressing down on us. I didn't question it. Love, I thought, meant patience. It meant trusting even when things felt slightly off. I held onto the version of her I knew, the one who once looked at me like I was her whole world. That night, we were sitting close, yet miles apart. The room was calm, warm with familiar comfort. I could still remember how her laugh used to fill spaces like this. Then her phone vibrated, She glanced at it, her expression unreadable. I wasn't trying to invade her privacy. When my eyes caught the screen, it was instinct, nothing more. And that was when I saw the message. Short, sharp, cold. You don't control me. No context, no emotion. Just defiance. I looked at her, waiting for her to explain, to smile and say it was nothing. She didn't. She kept scrolling, distant, detached, as if I wasn't even there. Something inside me tightened. It wasn't anger at first. It was confusion. Hurt. How had we gone from shared dreams to messages like this? When did love turn into resistance? I asked quietly what it meant. She shrugged, barely looking up. Her indifference hurt more than the words. In that moment, I realized how lonely it feels to sit next to someone who has already left emotionally. I replayed memories in my head, her promises, her affection, the way she once reassured me when I doubted myself. And suddenly, those memories felt fragile, like glass about to shatter. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I simply felt something break, not my love, but my illusion. I typed my reply slowly, carefully. You're single now. When I sent it, my hands were steady, but my heart wasn't. I wasn't trying to win. I was letting go of something that had already slipped through my fingers. The silence after my message was unreal. It felt like the world paused, holding its breath. She finally looked at me, then really looked at me, as if trying to understand whether I meant it. Her confidence wavered for the first time. The phone in her hand buzzed again. Then again, she ignored it, pretending not to care. But I saw the tension in her posture. The calm defiance she had worn so easily was cracking. I remembered how fiercely she used to cling to us, how she once feared losing me. Somewhere along the way, she had grown comfortable, maybe too comfortable, assuming I would always stay, always forgive, always bend. I realized I'd been doing exactly that, bending, adjusting, shrinking my own feelings to protect hers. Love had turned into endurance. She stood up and walked away, not saying a word. I stayed seated, staring at nothing, feeling everything. Love doesn't disappear instantly. It lingers, even when betrayal creeps in. I still cared. I still hoped she would come back and say she didn't mean it. But deep down, I knew words alone couldn't fix what had broken. My phone started vibrating. Missed calls, messages, apologies mixed with anger, confusion tangled with fear. The same person who claimed independence minutes earlier was suddenly desperate for reassurance. I didn't answer, not because I wanted revenge, but because I needed clarity. For once, I chose silence over emotional chaos. I thought about the sacrifices I had made without ever keeping score. The nights I waited, the doubts I swallowed, the trust I offered freely. Love should never make you feel small. And yet, I had allowed that to happen, believing it was normal, believing love required self. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer, uncertain. She said I was overreacting, that it was just words. But words matter. Words reveal what the heart hides. I realized that faithlessness isn't always physical. It starts when respect dies, when loyalty becomes optional, when commitment feels like a cage instead of a choice. I told her calmly that I loved her, but love without respect isn't love, it's attachment. She cried then, not quietly, not gracefully. The strength she thought she had crumbled under the weight of consequences she never expected to face. I didn't feel victorious. I felt sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that love alone wasn't enough to save us. The days that followed were heavy. The house felt unfamiliar, like a place haunted by memories that refused to leave. She tried everything: soft words, tears, promises. She reminded me of our past, of how good we once were. And she wasn't wrong. We had been good, beautiful, even. That truth made everything harder. I struggled with myself more than with her. Love doesn't disappear just because trust is broken. My heart still reached for her instinctively, but my mind had finally woken up. I saw the pattern clearly, now the distance, the emotional secrecy, the subtle disrespect masked as independence, faithfulness, ISNT. Just about staying it, S about choosing your partner, even when you feel powerful enough to walk away. She asked if I ever truly loved her. That question cut deeper than anything else. I told her I loved her enough to let her face the consequences of her choices. Enough to walk away instead of staying where I was no longer valued. She said she felt broken. And maybe she was. But sometimes, breaking is the only way to rebuild honestly. I wasn't punishing her. I was protecting myself. For the first time, I wasn't negotiating my worth. There were moments of weakness. Moments where I almost reached out, almost gave in. Love doesn't vanish easily, but neither does self-respect once you finally find it. Eventually, silence replaced chaos. The missed calls stopped. The messages faded. What remained was reflection. I learned that love should feel safe, not uncertain. That romance thrives on trust, not power struggles. That faithlessness begins long before betrayal becomes visible. She had lost something that night, not just a relationship, but the security of someone who loved her without conditions. And I lost something too, the version of myself who believed love meant enduring everything. But I gained something far more important. Clarity. I learned that walking away can be an act of love, not just for yourself, but for the truth. Love should never require you to beg for respect. What happened next didn't just break her. It chin me. And sometimes, that's the quiet ending no one expects but everyone needs. I didn't walk away because I stopped loving her. I walked away because love alone cannot survive without respect. When she sent that message, she thought it was strength, freedom, control. She didn't realize it was the moment everything changed. Not because I wanted it to, but because some words can be taken back once they reveal the truth behind them. What broke her wasn't my reply. It was the realization that I would no longer chase someone who no longer chose me. She expected anger, shouting, begging. She expected me to stay the same. Instead, she watched me choose myself for the first time. And that silence, that calm finality, hurt more than any argument ever could. Love should never feel like a battlefield. It should feel like safety, like loyalty without conditions. When faithfulness disappears, romance slowly dies, even if feelings remain. I learned that holding on to someone who disrespects you isn't love, it's fear. And letting go isn't weakness, it's courage. She lost more than a marriage that night. She lost the certainty of being loved without limits. And I lost the version of myself who believed love meant enduring pain in silence. What followed wasn't revenge. It was growth. It was peace. It was freedom. Sometimes, the strongest response isn't a fight. It's knowing when to walk away and never look back.